Meine Damen und Herren, herzlich willkommen, einen wunderschönen Nachmittag auf der FGÖ Gesundheitsförderungskonferenz. Willkommen zum Workshop Health and Equity Co-Benefits of Citizen Engagement in Sustainability. Wir haben das Thema Bürgerbeteiligung beim Thema Klimawandel und die positiven Co-Benefits für Gesundheit und gesundheitliche Chancengerechtigkeit. Mein Name ist Gabriele Trautendorfer. Ich darf die Anmoderation hier übernehmen. Ich komme von PROGES in Linz, ein Gesundheitsförderungsverein. Ein paar technische Details zu Beginn. Ich darf Sie hier vor Ort sehr herzlich begrüßen. Sie haben die Möglichkeit, wenn nachher der Workshop auf Englisch stattfindet, über die Kopfhörer die Simultanübersetzung zu bekommen. Unsere Online-Teilnehmerinnen begrüße ich sehr herzlich. Hier gibt es keine Möglichkeit der Übersetzung auf Deutsch, also anders als Sie es gewohnt sind aus den Plenarvorträgen, das ist das eine. Und bitte beachten Sie auch, dass die Chat-Funktion nicht aktiviert ist und wir aus technischen Gründen keine Möglichkeit haben, den Chat zu betreuen. Genau. At this point, let me give a very warm welcome to our speakers today, Caroline Costanz, Lisbeth Hall, and Rosalind Old. Welcome in Linz. We're really thankful to have you here. You already know Lisbeth Hall, who is a senior advisor at the National Institute for Public Health and Environment in the Netherlands. And you may have seen Caroline Costanz, who is director of EuroHealthNet in Brussels. And welcome Rosalind Old, she is a project manager at the CSPC, which is the Collaborating Center on Sustainable Consumption and Production in Germany. So thank you very much for being here and sharing your knowledge and your great experience with us. I assume most or all of you have heard the marvelous keynote speeches in the morning from Lisbeth and Caroline that gave us a great insight in the topic and in your work. And now in this workshop, you will have the opportunity to dig a bit deeper and get to know some methods, especially in the interactive part of this workshop. So we have 75 minutes time until 2:15. No, sorry, 75 minutes time. And so nothing left than wishing all of us a very pleasant and inspiring time in the next hour. And I would like to hand over to Rosalind. Stage is yours.
Thank you. Welcome everyone. So nice to see you here. So as Gabriela said, to start with, we'll have a bit of a presentation, but we will also have some interactive elements in this workshop today. So you've already heard who we are, and we're going to start with an icebreaker. So it's just a little game, interactive activity. So what we'd like you to do to start with is turn to somebody next to you. It could be somebody you know, it could be somebody you don't know. And you're going to have 2 minutes each to share something with the person next to you. And the thing we want you to share is an example of a positive experience you've had. So a situation where somebody has asked for your input in something, and you have contributed something and you really feel like what you gave to that situation was valued. So you had a positive experience where you interacted and inputted or contributed something. So you'll have 2 minutes. I'll give you a second to find, for everyone to find a partner. So you might need to maybe move, I think, a couple of people. Perfect. You can do it in a 3 if there's time, and we'll start the timer for the first 2 minutes. So one person has 2 minutes to share an experience, and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay, let's go. You've got 1 minute left for the first person. Okay, that's time up for the first person. So if you can wrap up those conversations, and now we'll start the second timer. So whoever hasn't spoken yet, now you can share your experience. And if you've already done both, you can share something else. Okay, last few seconds. Okay, time is up. Hopefully you've had some interesting conversations there, and I'm sure you can continue them later on as well. Does anyone have a nice example that they heard from the person they were speaking with that they'd like to share with us? A nice example of a positive experience. Anyone? There were lots of conversations, so I'm sure there's some good examples. Yeah?
Well, the interesting thing was that, it was first really difficult.
Mhm.
And then we first went to private examples, managed them actually both during the first timer. And then only when having gone through a positive example from, a private space, then went a bit more into the professional realm.
Interesting.
So that was very interesting, and yeah.
Yeah, so having to think really about which context that's happened in, and the private one then leading to thinking about the professional.
Yeah, and also again, to see that the first thing which pops to your mind is actually the negative example as usual.
Thank you. That was really interesting. Anyone else want to add to that or a different example? Yeah.
Quite interesting, or thinking out of the box, that Teresa, the first thing that she mentioned was not of dialogue, because I was thinking of dialogues, of dialogue inputs that we gave, but she was giving the example of, well, when I'm cooking, I always get positive feedback of what I put in. Right.
Nice.
Thinking out of the box.
I like that, thinking outside the box, and not just thinking a set dialogue, but different examples of when you feel valued for something that you've contributed. Absolutely, thank you. So now I have a question for all of you, which is, when you think back to that positive experience that you shared, after that experience, did it make you feel like you were more likely to do that again in the future, to be willing to contribute something again in the future? If you think of the positive rather than the negative experiences. Yeah, I see some nods. Yeah. And okay, so the reason that we did this question to start with is to think about what the purpose of civic engagement or citizen engagement is, and how it makes people feel, and the fact that when you have a positive experience, the way that you do that really matters. So the way that somebody reaches out to you, the way that somebody shows you that you're valued and that your input is valued, really makes a difference on how you feel about the experience and how willing you are to contribute in the future. And also what the input is, how high quality it is, how much time you spend on it. So this is something to just get you thinking about times when you felt like it's valued or maybe not valued in the past as well. So I'm going to give a bit of a presentation now on, I'll stand here actually, so we don't get two mics. A bit of a presentation now from some work from a project that, that CSCP has been involved in with EuroHealthNet and a lot of other projects, to talk a bit about engaging citizens inclusively, so bringing lots of people together in sustainable behaviour change, so how we can encourage people to live more sustainable, healthy lives. So when you think of citizen engagement, what do you think of? The question to think about. Some of you might think about voting. This is the obvious one, voting at the ballot box in elections. Some of you might think of something like a town hall experience, talking to a local politician, some sort of meeting. But also there are lots of other forms of citizen engagement. So for example, you can have workshops like this, or collaborative activities. And you can also get really creative methods as well. So for example, this one is a blackboard that's in a public space, which is encouraging people to write their ideas down as they pass by. So the idea here is that citizen engagement can be a whole range of different things, and it can take place in different contexts as well. There's not one set definition. And so today I'm not going to give you a concrete definition of what that means, but one thing is it really has to bring a group of citizens together to provide input on something. So it will depend on the context, of course, but some of the key principles behind it that we have come across are here. So it's really important that citizen engagement brings in the citizens' experiences and backgrounds. That's the whole purpose that you do it. You want to learn from citizens who have different lives and different backgrounds. It's also got to be meaningful, and I think this was mentioned earlier as well. It has to be meaningful, so you have to be willing to use what people input and use it in a meaningful way and be able to show people where their input has gone and how it's made a difference. It's got to influence and enrich the project. So following on from that meaningful aspect, how do you know that it will be used well? Have you got plans for how you will integrate it? If you hear something from citizens that's not what you originally expected, how will you maybe change your plans to incorporate that as well? And you want that to ultimately benefit the community that you're working with, or society in general. And you want to have a process that is inclusive and accessible. And that doesn't mean that it's just open to anyone to take part. It means actually breaking down those barriers and thinking ahead. How can we make sure that nobody is excluded from this? And how can we make sure that it's easy, it's affordable, it's accessible for people to take part? Oops, back one. So you might be asking, what does that look like in practice? So I've got some examples here just to tell you a little bit about what that can look like. So different types of stakeholders use citizen engagement in different ways. One of the ways is from policymakers. You've probably come across this before. Quite often politicians or policymakers are looking to have some input into a policy or a process. So they're reaching out to citizens. Sometimes that's through focus groups. It might be through an online consultation, a forum. I'm sure you've seen various examples of that. Sometimes called, consultation is a term that's used a lot there. For municipalities, it might be a slightly different situation. They might be looking for some input on something a bit more tangible to everyday life. So for example, one thing that's been happening a lot recently is participatory budgeting. So this is where you have a budget that is allocated to be used in an area, and you set up a process to enable the people living there to tell you what they'd like to spend it on. So it's a collaborative exercise, and it's a way of bringing people in to hear what matters most to them. And then non-governmental organizations also use these techniques. As I said already, we've been using it in the PS Lifestyles project as one example. We are co-creating a new tool to help people live sustainable lives. So it's an online tool, a questionnaire with some actions. And the way that we're doing that is through citizen science living labs, which I'll explain a little bit about later, but it's a way of people coming together and co-designing something. And in the context of this conference, there are lots of co-benefits and impacts that are related specifically to that intersection between sustainability, equity, and health. So if you think about it, these methods can be used in any context, but some places where it is being used right now and really well are in things like sustainable food, food waste and healthy eating, air quality and pollution, sometimes using a citizen science way where people use meters and things like that. Climate and extreme weather. Mobility, a big topic we've been discussing a lot this conference, and also consumption and the circular economy as well. And just for some concrete examples of that, so Air Quality is an example of a citizen science project where using air monitors, they're able to gather information on the air quality or pollution and help people, specifically those who have allergies, to think about when there'll be most pollution in certain locations, and they can help to plan their lifestyles around that. So maybe when they would want to go for a run or a walk where the allergy levels would be lower. A second example is hotspots in Ljubljana. This is a really nice example where the public has been invited to contribute to a map of the city. And in this map, they can note down areas of the city that are really too hot in the warmest periods. So they can say this particular square is really hot. And they can also co-create some solutions for how they can make those spaces greener and cooler together. And it helps the municipality to work with those citizens to find solutions. And the last one I want to mention is Food Shift 2030. This is another European project, and they're working with local communities in different parts of Europe to think about sustainable food systems, seeing what makes sense for people in that area, how it can be sustainable and reduce food waste. So those are some examples of how you can involve citizens in different ways, in different contexts. And the other aspect of this is about influence of behavior. So I'm sure all of you are thinking, how can we help people live those more healthy lifestyles in the context of a climate crisis? And behavior change is really interesting, and there's so many different factors coming into it. But one of the things we've been looking at is using different models to understand what determines people's behavior and what influences it. And you can think about some different categories. So what's the capacity? So do people have the skills and what they need to be able to make that change? Opportunity. So are you providing the space for people to do that? So are there cycling lanes, for example, that people can cycle to work on? Motivation is obviously very important. Do people care about it? Is there an internal cause that they want to support? Is it cheaper? Is it more environmentally friendly? What do they care about? And the behavior element is what comes out of those combined. So just to put this in context here, if we want to set up a citizen engagement initiative, these are some questions we can ask ourselves to try and engage those people in the activity. So how can we make it easier? Can we make it feel like normal so everybody does it, so we should all take part? Can we make the language accessible? Can we make it fun, relevant to people's lives? Do people feel included? What sort of space are you in? Is it an inclusive space? And does it tap into their values? So it's a bit on the behavior change side. This is an animation from the PS Lifestyles project, which I'm going to say a bit about just now. So as I mentioned, in PS Lifestyles, we are working with citizens to create a tool to help people live more sustainable lives. And this tool is part of a project which is about really engaging people across Europe in lots of different countries in raising awareness about climate challenges, but also people thinking about individual action and what they can do together as a community. So the Living Labs are basically a group of citizens, diverse group coming together, facilitated by the project partners. And they're happening in all these different countries that are listed here. We use lots of different facilitation methods to bring people together to discuss different topics about their lifestyles around the topics of mobility, housing, consumption, and food. So really thinking about their lives and what sort of actions they think they could take and how we can shape that tool as a result together. And so while we've been doing this project, we're in the first year still, so there'll be lots more to come. But so far, we have some things to think about when you're designing a citizen engagement process. So think about, firstly, how can you make it interactive? So I'm sure at some point we've all filled in some online form that's a consultation that says, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? That's not very fun, is it? It's not that engaging. It takes time. It feels like a chore. But you can do this in an interactive way. So what kind of ways can you do that? How can you make sure that people participate actively? So how can you make sure that they don't just sit in the workshop, but they actually are engaging and taking part in something? At the moment, a particularly relevant question is, will you do it online or will you do it in person, depending on what the situation is with regulations and how comfortable people feel? And how can you make sure that when you do this activity, you gather what you need for the project so you can actually use it and take it forward? And the last point is to make is, how do you keep people engaged between meetings? So in the project that we are working on, we have 6 different lab meetings across the course of the project. So how can we make sure that people stay engaged and want to come back and do more? So how do you keep it going? How do you keep them informed? And one of the really important aspects that I want to touch on here is inclusion. This is something that we've been working on, and Euro HealthNet have been working on in particular in the PS Lifestyle project, is about how to engage different groups of people and reach out to them. And we have a strategy that they've put together on this that we've all been working on in terms of recruitment for these workshops and participation. But some of the key things that come out of that are, how can you map out your participants? So do you know who is in the community that you want to reach? And what are the different groups within it? Are there different types of people? And linked to that is identifying multipliers. So when we talk about multipliers, we mean somebody who's really influential in a group or has a position in which they can share things more widely. So think about maybe a community leader or organizational leads that can help spread that information. Then we get on some really interesting points. Motivation. So what are people's motivations and what are the incentives that you can use to encourage them to take part in it? So for example, if it's a community that you know is really interested in a particular issue, if it's to do with road safety, how can you link that to your active travel workshop? Well, there's probably a link there. So you can think about how to communicate that. Again, that leads to the messaging. So keep it simple. You want it to be relatable to the people that you're reaching out to as well. Try and link in with the local issues as well. And in terms of outreach, there are lots and lots of different ways to do this. Now we have all of the digital sphere, but a lot actually happens from people talking to each other as well. So if you can engage those community leaders and people who are active in their communities, they might invite other people to come along and have those conversations about why it's important. And making sure everyone's included, of course, thinking about practical barriers. So do people have accessibility needs in terms of accessing the space that you want to hold the workshop in? Will you need some interpretation? What about food that will be served? Are there allergies? Thinking about those things that might seem small or might seem unusual, but make a big difference to who will take part and feel comfortable. And yeah, this is just a quote from the strategy that we have, which is that you want it to be diverse. And of course, people are not all the same. So one thing doesn't necessarily apply to everyone. One of the things we did at the start of the PS Lifestyles project was a piece of research on citizen science. Now, citizen science is one part of citizen engagement, and it's one part of the whole family of activities from civic participation through to collective intelligence. But we looked at this in particular because there are a lot of projects across Europe that are using these methods, and we can learn a lot from them. So we've released this report. It's on our website if you want to have a look. In there are lots of inspirational examples of different projects that have been using these methods to work with people towards a more sustainable future. The examples I mentioned earlier come from this, and they're part of this database in the project there. If you want to hear more about the project, you can of course join our newsletter as well. It's an ongoing project, so you can have a look on our website. And I'm just going to finish with some tips from those citizen science projects who've all been through it. They've all done some sort of citizen engagement process. And some of them, their top tips are here. So make sure you set out a clear frame. So you don't want to ask the citizens everything that you've ever thought of that you want to know. Think about the clear aim of what they can contribute. Don't assume that you know all the answers. I think this is a really important one. Sometimes people go into a project thinking, oh, we know what they're going to say, but we'll do it anyway. Actually, having an open mind is really important, and being able to and willing to change things depending on the feedback you get. And that covers some of the other points there. Being able to reflect on it and actually iterate and change things as you go forward is part of the process of working with citizens. The more you do that, the more meaningful it will be with people. And the last point, which is very important, is make it fun and entertaining. That's what people enjoy, and that's what will give you really good results as well. And on that note, I'm going to hand over to Carolina, who will take us through the next part of this workshop.
Speak from this. Does this work? Yeah, that's good. Before I explain the workshop to you, I would like to give you the opportunity to ask Rosalind some questions, or if you have some comments or some thoughts on what she presented. Rosalind made a great presentation. She knows a lot about citizen engagement, and it is your opportunity to ask questions as well. If there are any. Yes, please, go ahead. If you also state your name and where you are from, that would be good. Oh, and wait for the, oh yes, I see now. The lights are.
It helps to hear, yeah.
Yes, the lights are great, yeah.
I see, yes, I recognize you.
I'm interested. I mean, I have seen some projects where people were very motivated and did a lot. And at the end, as soon as it came to outreach or upscaling, there was no interest. And that was a real setback for all the people who were involved. So how do you deal with that issue at the beginning of the project, that you have some commitment of some people who are in charge of these issues, that they will really follow up on it?
That is a really good point. Is this working? Yes, okay. It's a really good point, and actually it's something we covered in the citizen science research that we did, which is that some of the projects said to us the most important thing is to have buy-in at the start of the project from, for example, municipality or any other institution that can further that work and scale up, as you say. So for example, some projects included the municipality as a partner in the project to start with, so that they could get a commitment from them that said, you know, whatever comes out of this, we will follow up on it. It's a similar thing to the Conference on the Future of Europe that's been happening, that there was a commitment from the start that, you know, citizens would be listened to. It always ends up though at the end, what does that mean in terms of concrete action and how far will they take it? And I think one way to really ensure that is to have a budget attached to that as well. Obviously that's quite difficult to do in certain contexts, but if you can build it into work plans or strategies and things like that, that helps as well.
Thank you. Any other question or comment? All right, then we are going to go to the fun element and we put you to work. And Rosalind, you should help me if I don't explain it well. But the idea is that we play a game. And the game that we play is based on the Creative Commons, the Think from the Future card game. So it is a card game. The idea is that the card game facilitates you to think through innovative or new solutions to build resilience, reduce health inequalities, and to mitigate or adapt the climate crisis. There are 3 sets of cards, and it puts forward to you a challenge, a various of challenges, a theme, and the actors. There are several suggestions made, and together they form the context and the building blocks, let's say, for your solution that you will design. And we will play the game in small groups of 3 to 4 people, I suggest. So I suggest we have 2 groups here and then maybe 2 groups there. So we have 4 groups in total. Mm-hmm. How to play the game? I have to also check what is in here. Yes, so you will set the cards and then you shuffle the cards into these 3 groups. So challenge, theme, and actors. Then you take 1 card, the top card. So for challenge, it can be food shortage or biodiversity loss. For a theme, this can be technology or mobility. And for actors, it can, for example, be a sports team or a municipality or any other actor or stakeholder. Then you have 3 minutes to think for yourself. So not yet discussing it, but think for yourself and write down which idea comes to your mind that will link the 3 building blocks for your solution. So for example, one player may think, okay, a sports team will use a menu app to create meal plans for their week that give them the calories they need for sport while not wasting food. Another player may think, well, the football team will use a WhatsApp group to share leftovers or extra food with each other. And then the 3rd player may think, oh, well, the cycling group, sets up an email address where people can share when they have extra food or when they need food, and the team collects and deliver the food between people. So 3 nice ideas that you write down on your card, and then you're going to discuss in your group and decide on which idea you like best. And then you tag that idea. And then the idea is that if you have extra, I just have to read it. If you have extra time, oh yes, and to see then that you include everyone. So always have the equity matter at heart. So see that it is available, your solution is available to everyone. It doesn't have any unintended effects or widen health inequality gaps, and that everyone is able to access it and it's easy to do. So the elements that Rosalind presented beforehand. Oh, this is already timer. Sorry, I was looking if there was something more. Yes, so we will share with you the cards, and also it has like a set of paper where you can each write down your idea. You can also find in your pack a sticker, and you can then in your discussion, you can decide where to place the sticker on which idea that you think is the best. And then for our online participants, we will also give you a challenge, a theme, and an actor for you to think about for yourself. Unfortunately, for our online participants, it's not possible to discuss, but you will be able to play the game and to see and to tap into your creativity. So for the online players, I will give you a challenge, which is what I mentioned, the biodiversity loss. As a theme is mobility, and actors is the municipality. Is there anything that I have forgotten, Rosalind?
I don't think there's anything you've forgotten. Just to say to everyone that we'll do the timings together. So you don't have to worry about timing how long each part takes. We'll talk you through it. And we'll do one round of the game and then we'll discuss a little bit together just to see how it's going, and then we can do more rounds. So,
and this the idea of this game is that it has developed a way to encourage participation and thinking together and creativity and come up with solutions. So, and that's why we are trying this game now. So everyone has, you have shuffled your card decks. You need a pen? Okay, there's a pen. A pen is needed. You take one card from each of the three, so a challenge, a theme, and an actor. Yeah.
Within each group, you're all using the same cards within your group, but you come up with an individual idea each. Yeah, just one. It's just so one. You can play it more times.
So we play it 3 times, depending on the time we have available. Yeah.
Click back when we can do the timer. When you press that, the timer will start.
So you have your 3 cards ready and picked. Then I will start the timer now. And you have 3 minutes to think about your solutions. And now it works? Does it work now? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
The bar is running.
Yeah, so it's an individual solution. So each of you individually can look at the 3 words that you have, the challenge, the theme, and the actors. And then as an individual, you think of an idea or a concept and write it down on one of the bigger cards. And then after the 3 minutes, you can discuss in your group your ideas. So you're about halfway through the time. Yeah. Last few seconds. Okay, that's the 3 minutes up. So if you can finish writing up your idea, and then you now have some minutes to discuss in your groups. So you can share your ideas with each other and see if you can come up with a favorite out of your group's ideas and just add a sticker to that one so you can remember which one's your favorite. We don't have a specific criteria on that, so you can decide. So off you go, discuss. And you can, do you want to ask them afterwards? Yeah, we can, if this format.
It would be good to pick your favorite and then we collect your favorite solutions.
It said in the original thing, 10. can say to the online participants. You can also note down some of the other topics. Oh, okay. Do you want to fill those? Workplace. Well, when we did it next. Yeah. Do you want one of these microphones right here? Or, okay. I'm sure you can use this so you can walk around.
Yeah, maybe that's, oh, yes, this works as well. All right. Oh, so now I can stand here, it's better. Not yet finished, okay.
Okay.
A few seconds then, half a minute. Yeah, okay, a minute then. Because you want to do a second one.
Have these groups got their favorites now? These groups got their favorites.
Okay, good. So we are keen to listen to your solutions, creative solutions. Would you like to start with the solution that you selected? And maybe if you can state also what was the challenge and the theme and the actor.
Sorry, I didn't hear the last two
So
statements.
if you can also give us the input, your building blocks for your
Oh,
solution.
our building blocks were school, nature, and extreme weather event, and we kind of made a mixture out of several of the ideas. So basically, that there is a day for the classes where they go for lectures outside into nature and experience different types of weather extremes, maybe not so extremes, otherwise it's going to be an insurance issue. And where they can then, learn directly how it is, to learn in different, kind of weather situations and how to cope with this and maybe come up with solutions.
Okay, yeah, very nice. Yes, nice one. You should capture these. And for your group, what were your building blocks? What were your cards? And what is the solution?
Our building blocks are consumption, municipality, and food safety and/or security. And our idea was that the municipality create or push a new institution to collect Nachbarschaftstafeln. Neighborhood.
Nachbarschaft.
In Österreich sagt man Tafeln, die was halt gemeinnützig sozusagen Lebensmittel sammeln und wieder gemeinnützig verteilen. Food sharing, thank you. Push a food sharing concept which collect regional overproduction or food that isn't necessary for some people. And the key idea was that not the rich ones with the food gives it the poor ones. So the emancipability involves schools to collect the food and share it with the people. And so the young people can also get practice and yeah.
Yeah, very nice. So also it has a learning element in it, and education, which is so important if you want to address climate change, improve health. It starts a lot with education, because too many people really do not know what the issues are, and let alone what solutions are. So nice one. This group. Yeah. So what were your cards?
Our cards were mental health problems, build environments, and municipality. So we decided to rent use spaces and vacancies in the center of the town, which is accessible for all. And we use them as meeting places, also offering support and information, as well as infrastructure with trained personnel to also ensure sustainability.
Very nice.
I don't know if you want to comment on the rent-to-use spaces.
The second idea was that this could also affect that rents in general go down because of better use of the unused spaces in town.
Yeah, yeah, very important. And the housing problem is another huge problem also in terms of climate. I mean, you have the very rich people, they often have 2 houses, they have a summer house or a countryside house. And while we know that so many people are struggling because they can't afford their own place or even rent an adequate place, let alone for other professional activities or other activities. And I like your suggestion to use empty vacant spaces for social inclusion, actually, which will add to mental health. Very nice. Yeah. And the last group.
So our cards were air pollution, circular economy, and health professionals. And we thought of a hospital where the staff is invited to take part at the marketplace for used bikes. So there they can bring their used bikes and repair it or get it repaired or sell it, or they can buy an old bike from another one.
Very good. Circular economy. Yeah, nice. Definitely a market, particularly in countries where there are many used bikes. I learned that, for example, in the Netherlands, there are many bikes that, too many bikes, and because people want to buy new bikes all the time. But there is a way now, like a stream to Spain, that in Spain, they really they're dying for bikes. So a lot of the used bikes are now sort of sold in Spain for a very low price, for people to be able to cycle, as their cycling infrastructure is really boosting in places like Sevilla, and Sevilla in particular really has become a cycling city, and many of people there are cycling on Dutch bikes. So it's really, really funny, but very nice example. So it's great to see what solutions you come up with, no? And we would like to do a second round. So if you can shuffle your cards desk again, and then select the next card from each of the 3 building blocks. And for our online participants, I will give 3 new cards to you. For challenge, that is air pollution. For the theme is technology. And for actors, it is the workplace.
And if any of you pick the same cards that you had before, you can go to the next one, of course. So you can use different topics. Okay. So once everyone has their cards, we can start the timer again. Let's just give a minute until people have sorted them. Okay. Is everyone ready? If you need more paper or pencils or anything, just let us know as well. Otherwise, we will start the timer and you have another 3 minutes. Come up with another idea. It was a school, nature and extreme weather, I think. That was when we went outside for the class. I'm sure you can go and collect the card if you want to like have the card read it. Interesting discussion. It's a good challenge sometimes, isn't it? The creativity. Okay. We'll give it a bit more time. Yeah. You have about 1 minute left. Okay, time is up. The 3 minutes are over. So if you can just finish up your idea. And now it's back to your groups to have a discussion about the ideas you've come up with and to pick your favorite. I think there were some harder combinations this time, so it'll be really interesting to see what you've come up with. Pardon? Yeah, I was just thinking of that. I love this fight.
Excellent. So I think, are we all finished? Yes. So I'd love to hear what's the winning idea. Let's start with this group. Are you've got your winning idea?
So we had the challenge heat wave.
Yeah.
The theme housing and energy,
Oh, very
and the
interesting.
actor, which is not really an actor but a place, was workplace.
Yeah.
And we had one idea which started with the employees, which was also great.
Yeah.
And another idea which is more technological, the solution, which was to equip the workplace with solar panels and a so-called green wall, so plants
Oh,
along
yeah,
the wall.
perfect, yeah.
to cool down and to support also alternative energy. And the solar panels should also be used to have an automatic watering system which keeps the wall green.
Brilliant. Sounds excellent. And the green is, of course, good for your mental health, so the workers will feel nice and serene and be able to do their work. Great. I like that idea.
At least at the time when the mosquitoes come in,
Yeah.
then we would want to change to the other solution. Maybe.
Yeah, you need a good control of the water quality, exactly. And as long as it's flowing, normally it doesn't encourage the insects. It needs a good flow. Good, good. Right. Oh, yeah, we had an infectious disease expert in the room, so correct me if I'm wrong there. I've got to be careful what I say. Right. So what was your winning idea?
So our challenge was food safety and or security. The theme is built environments, and the actor is Center for Older People.
Oh, interesting.
And our idea is that we build small units with cozy seats for the inhabitants, where they can meet for gossip, and instead of coffee and cake, there will be fresh water and healthy snacks like carrots or apples and so on.
Brilliant. Sounds really good, and a nice, good social function as well.
Yes.
So that's also good for the mental health. And yeah, sounds excellent. Thank you. Right. And how about the winning idea up here? Whose turn is it?
Okay, so instead of sharing, yeah, we had quite similar ideas. We have technology, health professionals, and extreme weather events.
Okay.
Nice combination.
Yeah.
Could have been worse. So the idea was that there are health professionals that are trained in using an app, and the app has certain maps in there, and the one map is where extreme weather events will take place, and the other one is where people live who are vulnerable, and where the overlapping areas are. They try to get in contact with these people, and best before the extreme weather events happen, to get a kind of relationship and trust building, and to inform them in case something is coming up. And that means a different role of health professionals. They're not waiting for someone to call, but they are proactive in going out and helping people.
Excellent. So it's kind of, on the one hand, there's sort of an early warning system, but also in the preparedness phase to make sure that those communities are ready for what's coming. Excellent. So climate resilience. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. I like. Right. And finally, I've heard this one already, but but let's all hear this idea.
Okay, we had the combination of water pollution, mobility, and municipality. And first, yeah, first of all, whoa. Okay.
Very challenging.
Yeah, no, not shocked, but yeah, some challenged, yeah. And one idea was that we, at the Austrian lakes, we have a lot of motorboats, and those licenses are sold by the municipalities. And we think about banning those motorboats from the sea or from the lakes, which would be help for cleaner water, because there's a lot of fuels. There also, the boats get the fuel directly on the lake, and there's not always really good. Yeah, and maybe some kind of subventions of e-boats can also be encouraged. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent.
But the same way, we have the idea of more using those waterways for transportation, but also always with e-boats.
And of course, it's noise pollution as well. I guess
Yeah,
it's not just
that's
the water pollution, air pollution,
Yeah,
noise
it's a lot of
pollution. It's just
pollution, yeah.
so excellent. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think I've got this one, don't worry.
Oh, you got
Great, so thank you very much. That was so fascinating to hear what you came up with. And one thing, the reason that we played this game is to kind of show you one of the methods you can use in citizen engagement. So this is one of the ways that you can work with citizens to come up with ideas and solve difficult challenges. And some of you will have seen you had quite difficult combinations there, but you still managed to come up with the solutions. And I think even in one group I've seen here that you came up with completely different ideas as well, which is really interesting. So we wanted to show you this is a tool you can use, and there are lots of other creative and fun and kind of gamification methods that you can use to engage people in a way that's fun, it's entertaining, but it's also a bit challenging as well. And it also is useful because you can take those ideas forward. So yeah, we just wanted to show you a bit about the method and how you, as the practitioners in the field, can be using this as you go forward in your projects to involve citizens and others in your work. So I'll hand back over to Caroline and Lisbeth to round us up.
Okay, thanks a lot. Unfortunately, we do not have the time to discuss further what we think of this method. But I hope that you find it useful. And I think generally we as public health workers, health promoters, we do not sufficiently consult our citizens and involve them in our interventions and our project design. And particularly not the more vulnerable groups or lower socioeconomic groups. And I do think that this method actually very well works in all sorts of groups, because it has the fun element of it, and you can select the themes and so on in the way you like it. So I think it's a very nice examples. We just have to make sure when we consult people, and particularly people from the community, that we don't raise their expectations and then not live up to it. So we always have to have that in mind. But for the rest, it is important that we do these things, that also that we build capacity on engagement. And Eurojust is going to organize a capacity building event in the autumn, an online one, also a workshop to explain together with PS Lifestyles and Rosalind, to explain what can be done and what are the pitfalls and what are the opportunities. So I hope you found this useful. And I want to have a big hand of applause for Rosalind from CCP.
Thank you.
And PS Lifestyles. She has designed the whole workshop. And I would like to thank all of you for your participation. And also, if you still have online people, then thanks for staying with us. And I hope you also find it useful. So thank you.
Thank you. One very practical thing is, if you could put the things back in the envelope and just bring it to the front, that'd be great. And if you are willing to share your ideas in the envelope as well, we're very interested to read them. So thank you.